our Law and Justice segment tonight, the NYPD are taking flack for releasing a video they call blue racism. They're taking on the narrative that comes from the left that says that all cops are racist. Now, opponents of this video say it's insulting to people who actually experience racism, but we've had more cops attacked and assaulted, shot and killed simply because they were cops in the past couple years than ever before in our history. Take a look at this video.
What do you see? Son, daughter, mother, father, aunt, uncle or cousin, neighbor, coach, member of your church congregation, community volunteer? The average person doesn't see those things that make me human. They don't even label me based on being African American, Latino, Asian, Caucasian, and so on. They tend to see an even broader stereotype through an even more racist lens. When they look at me, they see blue. To be blue, I and over 700,000 brothers and sisters swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of my country, my state, and my city, so help me God. Yet, even in such numbers, I'm a minority as this strange form of racism continues to engulf the country.
With me now, contributor at Red Alert Politics, Jackson Richman. Jackson, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we showed a little clip of this video. It's actually, that was about a minute and a half of it. It's actually 4 minutes long. The title of this video is what is causing a lot of the controversy. It's called Blue Racism. Jackson, what is blue racism?
So blue racism is based off an essay by John Pappas, and basically it's the notion that law enforcement is racist.
Right, and I think we've seen that. If we look at the statistics from the past couple years, especially since we've seen these protests fomented by Black Lives Matter, we've seen more cops, like I said in the introduction, shot and killed, assaulted, targeted, even executed just because they're wearing that uniform, because they have that badge on them, because they're in a police cruiser, than we've ever seen before. There is, in our culture, some systemic targeting of cops right now.
Yes, according to Heather McDonald, who is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute and one of the leading experts on race relations and law enforcement, a police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be shot by a black male than an unarmed black male is to be shot by a cop.
Right, and that right there is a shocking and telling statistic, and not exactly part of the narrative coming from the left right now. Jackson, let me ask you, what about this video? Why do liberals find this so offensive?
I think liberals find this offensive because they like to paint law enforcement with a broad brush of racism, especially in the aftermath of shootings like Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, list goes on. And based on those incidents in which actually law enforcement was not at fault through forensic evidence and other means, that law enforcement is somehow racist, that the people who protect us are discriminatory.
And listen,
and look at New York City, for example. Stop and frisk has decreased over 96%. Why? Political correctness. Bill de Blasio buying into that narrative. And as a result, shootings have increased by 70%, in which blacks are both victims and the suspects, and murders have, and they were also responsible for 56% of murders last year. And they were both suspects and the victims.
Right, and what does that prove to us? That law enforcement, if you actually police properly, it prevents crime. And if you loosen up that idea, if you loosen up policing, if you loosen up law enforcement, oh, what a surprise, crime continues to happen and it escalates here. But I get the consternation when we have, bad apples within our law enforcement. These are people that we're supposed to look up to. They're supposed to be sort of beacons of freedom. They're supposed to be our protectors. When someone abuses that position, that damages us as a society in a deeper way, I think, than someone who we don't hold, on a pedestal or to that esteem. At the same time, when we, like you said, when we look at the forensic evidence, when we look at our system of justice, our fact-finding system of justice, and we find that many of these, cop-involved, police-involved shootings have not ended up being murder. It hasn't been based off of race, that the cops have been justified in doing what they do. this foments such an attitude of anti-police that it makes this video make perfect sense to me. I mean, what is racism if it is not judging someone by the color of their skin or a particular characteristic such as a blue uniform instead of the content of their character?
Absolutely, and I think this idea should apply across the board, not just with law enforcement, that we need to judge people personally, not by their background, rather by their character.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I guess, and this seems like an elementary point perhaps to make, but I think it's one that our society, we forget a lot of times, that if we don't have our individual right to bear arms, and if we don't have police protecting us, who's going to keep us safe? I wish liberals would remember that sometimes when they go after law enforcement, when they want cops to have, to be labeled as racist, when they want us to have this distrust for law enforcement. I wish they'd remember that without cops, we would be even less safe than we are right now. Jackson, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.